So welcome. We're out here in Manteo, Illinois, and we're with Troy Trepanier in his shop, and we're here to honor Jack Trepanier as our third Three-Dog Garage legend. I wanted to do it in Troy's shop, in his space, just so you could understand the Trepanier family and what they're all about. But I really want to start out today and just talk about, what we all do in this car hobby. It's just, it starts out about cars and it ends up being about friends.
The car hobby is an amazing catalyst for great friendships. Many times these friendships start in the least likely of ways, and with people who could never have predicted they would even meet, let alone become close or collaborate on special and unique projects. This year's legend of Three-Dog Garage is Jack Trepanier, a native of the small town of Manteno, Illinois, about 48 miles south of Chicago. Born in 1943, Jack grew up as a regular kid, graduating high school in 1961 and joining the Air Force as an airplane mechanic. He became proficient at his craft, learning early on what made things work and how to keep them working. After the Air Force, Jack returned to Manteno, married his sweetheart Judy Skeen, and went to work as an airline mechanic with Continental Airlines at O'Hare International Airport in Chicago. A few years of the long commute convinced Jack to stay in Manteno and put his mechanical skills to work fixing cars. He reasoned, correctly, that if he could keep planes in the sky, he could keep cars on the road. He promoted his new business by doing some local stock car racing for a few years. His business prospered. He and Judy had a daughter, Annette, and a son, Troy, and life in Manteno was good. He was a dad, a Little League coach, and was a member of the city council. Before his 10th birthday, Troy was already showing signs of being a car guy, and it was in the 70s, after Jack and Troy worked together rebuilding Granddad's '66 Chevelle, that it became clear that their path ahead in the automotive world was going to be building customs, hot rods, and race cars. And years later, that's why Jack Trepanier and Ross Meyers found themselves in the same place at the same time, Nashville, Tennessee, in the summer of 2004.
There's certain things in life that are just meant to be, right? We were down in Nashville, Tennessee at the, I believe it was the 40th anniversary of the Mustang.
Yep.
After a day or so, I said, hey, I wonder what else is around, so let's walk around. And well, there's 1,000 Mustangs, and there's some tents set up, and I wander under a tent, and I just kind of stopped because there was this drop dead gorgeous, a 67 Fastback. And I walked in, I'm like, wow, it's a Mustang, but it's different, And I'm walking around this thing looking at all the little trick things on it, and I just can't believe the quality of this car and the creativity in the car. And, I'm expecting some, really stuck-up guy to, walk up to me and tell me to get out of his tent, because I'm in a T-shirt and shorts and I'm racing, right? I got grease all over me. And your dad walks up to me, right? And, I said, excuse me, but could you tell me about this car? Now, he could have thrown me out of the tent, right? He spent 15, 20 minutes with me, like we were old friends, right? And, I didn't say anything to him but I walked out of that tent and I'm thinking, I would love to build a car with that guy.
Ross was just 9 years old when he paid $25 for a 1936 Ford three-window coupe and planned to make a hot rod for himself. Life and its responsibilities got in the way, and the 36 sat in the corner of a barn for 40 years. But Ross was convinced that the car he called First Love could be turned into the best 36 Ford three-window coupe anyone had ever seen and win the most prestigious honor there is in the world of hot rods, the Riddler Award at the Detroit Autorama.
I had promised the car we were going to win the award. So if you promise your first car you're going to do something, you got to deliver. And I said, I've got a car and I want to win the Riddler with it. I said, would your shop be interested? Because I looked at the work you did at that Mustang. I said, man, these guys are amazing. And he said, well, He said, I'm not sure. He said, let me go back and talk to Troy. And that really told me a lot about your dad because, you know, he's such a team player. He was just so proud of what you did and what you've accomplished. And it was never about him. And I said, you know, what a great dad. What a great way to grow up. And, you know, as we worked together on the car, I formed a relationship with your whole family. I can remember when you and your team were getting First Love ready for the Riddler. You remember your dad would call me every week. He says, don't worry, they're going to do it. Then he'd probably run down here and say, just talk to Ross. He knows you're going to do it. He knows you're going to get it done. But I can remember he was like, you know, getting sleeping bags for you guys. He was getting cots. He was buying pizza. He was like doing whatever it took to keep you guys propped up enough to finish the car.
That was definitely the benchmark of our shop still on just getting a group of guys, you know, heck, we had about 20, you know, that were in good rhythm, everybody on the same page, and nobody got flustered and not being naive or cocky. But I mean, I've been going there for 20 years and seen the best, and I mean, I knew this was something special that, let alone the story, but just the way you let us do it.
I can still remember walking into the auditorium with Beth, and you and your team pulled the drape off that car. And I lost it, and Beth lost it. And we're like crying, and Jack comes over and he starts crying. It was just so much more than a car.
Yeah.
The one thing I probably never shared with anybody, I know I never shared it with you, that, you know, we run a big company, 2,000 people. I learned so much about leadership from your father. It was unbelievable. Just watching how he treated people, watching how he dealt with people, watching how he dealt with you and your team here. And I just watched him, and I was in awe of he just had a natural talent about how to get the best out of people.
For you to say that about him, you know, about an old mechanic from a little town here,
no,
you know,
he's such a special
he's
guy.
smiling down on that one.
He's a special guy.
The best is when he come in that morning and found the cat laying in the street, got hit by a car, and
Coming back
he
from
go out
lunch.
back and he buried
Jack, my little guy.
Shop kid.
He buried it out back, and wasn't
Had a little
a
ceremony.
few hours later he turned around, the cat's standing there behind him. He thought he buried it alive, and it was the wrong cat.
We always did a lot of good trips as a family and spent a lot of time in Maui. That was his favorite place.
That was his favorite spot.
Yeah. He'd go there for 2 weeks, and no lie, you could bring what he brought there in 2 weeks in a cellophane bag. He got there and it was shorts, and that was it. I remember the time we went over to the other side of the island where more of the normal people are, you know, not all the tourists.
Yeah.
And we had a cooler of beer, and we're sitting out there, and all of a sudden we're in one of the parks, and all of a sudden there's like 50 people around, and they're all coming up to me and say, you know, Captain Jack said we could have a beer, you know. So he'd made friends with all these local bums that basically bums that lived on the beach, you know. So we sat there for a couple hours with a bunch of beer, and he was the guy, you know. So he was
hanging out with the locals.
Yeah. I mean, but he fit right in. He could have stayed there. We're Catholic, so my mom, you know, she was just strict, you know. Go to church every Sunday, which, you know, you should.
A good mom. Yeah.
So it went on this string for quite a while that, you know, he was going to bring us to church. So we would, me and my sister would get in the car with him, and we'd go to the next town to Piatone, 7 miles away, and they had a hen house, like a Denny's per se, you know, and we'd eat breakfast there. And then we'd come back to town, and we'd swing by the church and grab a pamphlet from the church, you know, to show my mom. So I thought that was a church until they tore it down. So he was definitely the biggest prankster and jokester, and, you know, a lot of people didn't see that in him, but he was definitely the life of the party, that's for darn sure. We always kind of gave him a hard time, Ross. The general thing around here was we didn't let him touch anything anybody could see.
You know, we have a lot of similar stories with that because I got to work with my father, and most people don't.
Yep.
Most people probably wouldn't want to.
No, that's right.
Right?
They wouldn't be able to do it.
And your dad reminded me so much of my father. They had that special charisma about them. People just warmed up to him. They loved life. They knew how to enjoy life.
Yep.
And Alan Meyers and Jack Trepanier, they're probably up there having a great time. And so I know, when I lost my dad, I lost my business partner, my father, and one of my best friends all on the same day.
Yep.
Right? And and then you got to say, well, yeah, but wow, what a great time we had.
Yeah, that's right.
What a great time we had, and we have all those memories.
Yep.
And that's why we're doing what we're doing, is just trying to share as many of those Jack memories today as we can.
Along with the many great memories of Jack, his presence lives on in the enthusiasm of the young hot rod builders at Rad Rides today. Jack knew that the future belongs to the next generation, the young guys with the skills and the passion. He helped them find their way, and that will always be part of his legacy.
When I got here, I was kind of intimidated by him a little bit, because if you don't talk to him, he looks kind of, kind of intimidating, a little bit grumpy, whatever you want to buy him, but he welcomed me with open arms and was the nicest guy from the second I met him. So it was nice to have that, on top of all the stress and trying to impress people. He was just kind of like the guy to, pat you on the back, kind of like a dad or something, to keep you motivated.
I mean, he's just a great guy to talk to, and kind of felt more like a grandfather or father to you early on. I mean, you hardly would even know him, but he treated you like your own kid, and I mean, he's just really easy to get along with and talk to.
What's funny about him is he could be crass, but once he kind of welcomed you in, that's it. It was like Papa Bear. Like, it doesn't matter if somebody's saying something bad about Rad Rides. He's the first one, he's ready for fisticuffs.
Let's throw it down.
Yeah,
right?
seriously. And he was here early. He's like cleaning up the area for final assembly. I mean, you might be here at 3 o'clock in the morning, like wrapping up, and then you come in at 5 in the morning and everything's cleaned up and the tools are kind of organized. He was always quick to, get whatever you need or drive to Indiana to pick something up. And it was just his nature. And like it happens a lot of times, it's only when that person's gone that you're like, you were doing a lot of stuff.
It was almost discouraging at first, because I'm like, this guy's gonna have 1,000 people applying, because he's all over TV, and
Sure.
I kind of beat myself up and thought, there's no way I'd ever get a job there. And then I called here, and actually I wasn't sure where Chicago was exactly on the time change, so I called an hour too early, and Jack was the only one here. And when I first came down, I walked through the door and I knew that was Jack.
Yep.
Just because. And you knew that he was sarcastic and a little crass at times, but
Quick-witted.
yes.
Well, one of the things I always admired about your team when we were working with First Love was how young they were.
Yep.
And how enthusiastic they were. And, I watched how you worked with them, and then I thought, how could you have learned to inspire and work with a team like that at such an early age? And then I remembered, your dad taught you, and then you're taking that same thing and you're doing it with these young guys, and it's just, passing it down.
So, when Jack left us in 2014, we lost Jack the husband, the father, and grandfather. Jack the small-town mechanic who led Troy and the Rad Rides team to the highest honor in the land. Jack, a true mentor and friend. And to all of us here, Jack Trepanier, a legend of Three Dog Garage.